This video has been sponsored by Keeps. Welcome back to another episode of Swomp Storiez. For this episode, we go back a few decades to cover some stories that many people don't know about. But before we get into it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. You can also follow the Instagram page as well. In the mainstream hip-hop world, the West Coast was all one group against the East Coast. But in all reality, that's not how things work. The West had its internal issues that were way more serious than the rap world thought. But in order for it all to make sense, let me break down the backstories. Tupac was born in East Harlem, New York. His real birth name was Lassane Cooks, but as an infant, his mother renamed him Tupac after an Incan ruler from the 1700s. But when he was in middle school, he moved to Baltimore, Maryland, and that's where he met Jada Pinkett. And I don't even like saying her name because Will Smith deserves way better. But anyways, after attending art school in Baltimore, he then moved to California, and this is where the story begins. Most people think that Tupac was from LA or Oakland, but both of those are straight up wrong. 1988. At the age of 16, Tupac moved to Marin County. And for those who don't know, Marin is the wealthiest and safest county in all of California. Ultimately, Marin is known for its millionaires, actors, and tech moguls. So in the Bay Area, if you tell people that you're from Marin, they'll probably roll their eyes. And that's because it's the suburbs that are disconnected from the rest of the Bay. So you're telling me that Tupac is from the suburbs? Yes, but not really. Tupac lived in the Golden Gate Village housing projects in a small community called Marin City. Luckily, he attended an elite high school that was known for its acting and music programs. His classmates even say that he loved hanging around rich artsy kids because he didn't feel accepted in his community at first. And anyone that knew him will tell you that if it wasn't snowing, Tupac was not going. So basically, when Tupac was first in the Bay Area, he was split between two lives: the environment he lived in and the elite school he attended. But part of the reason for the disconnect was that he was preaching about ideas that many people were not trying to hear.
His knowledge of black issues and history was off the chain. And us in California is like, man, give us a bag, give us a way to make some money, give us a way for these people to stop fucking with us, give us a way to be cool and independent. That's all we care about. Parties, all that kind of stuff. And he was talking knowledge about how, your situation ain't right. He was very knowledgeable, and he knew his African history to the T.
But as he got closer with the people in Marin City, he began learning how to record raps with a local group called 5150. But there was one thing that he knew. He could not start his career in Marin because people would instantly assume he was soft. Even though there was all kinds of stuff going on in Marin City, it had no recognition. So that's when he decided to explore the Bay Area. His first stop was Oakland, and that's where he started rapping with a group called Digital Underground. At the same time this was going on, there was another rapper making noise about 30 minutes north. In the small city of Vallejo, Andre Hicks, also known as Mac Dre, had a brand new style. Him and his crew were called the Romper Room, and they were the fly guys with the old school cars and the gold chains. And the reason they caught people's attention is that they were so much different than the tough guy rappers in Oakland. And funny enough, that's who Tupac was trying to become. But before he would rap about it, he made sure to live that life first.
Like, he was really wild at that point.
Yeah, Oakland was crazy. So, we used to play games. Like, we'd roll through the hood and see whose hood was more gangster. Just we'd throw bottles and shit and see who at us. That way we know what hood not to with,
You guys would play this game?
Yeah.
You and Tupac?
Yeah. Well, we was on one, man. The thug life was real as hell.
But Tupac's wild energy rubbed some people the wrong way. But another thing that should rub you the wrong way is hair loss. Back in the day, the only solution was to go bald, but these days you can get ahead of the curve. Did you know that 2/3 of men will experience hair loss by the age of 35? But there's good news because Keeps has changed the game with their clinically proven and research-backed solution. And the best thing about Keeps is that you never have to go see a doctor. Keeps will be delivered straight to your door. And if you have any questions, they offer 24/7 care from medical advisors, prescribers, and care specialists. So it's impossible for you not to find a routine that works best for you. Whether you are preventing hair loss, stimulating hair growth, or simply taking care of the hair you have, Keeps has you covered. So save yourself an expensive trip to Turkey because hair loss stops here. To claim 50% off your first order, head to keeps.com/swampstories. That's KEEPS.com/swampstories. Or simply click the link in the description. Tupac's wild energy and persona rubbed some people the wrong way, but none more than a summer night at the Women's Club in Vallejo. At this club was Mac Dre and the Romper Room. And remember, at the time, they were the coolest guys in Vallejo, but here came Tupac. He did not care who you were, so Mac Dre's crew would make jokes at him, and he was not laughing about it. Tupac and his boys would get into an altercation with Mac Dre's crew, but after the altercation, Tupac would do something very odd. Instead of making matters worse, he decided to book Mac Dre in the Romper Room to perform in Marin City. So Mac Dre would take this as an apology or a peace offering from Tupac, but that wasn't necessarily the case. So it's the day of the performance, and Mac Dre and his crew hop in a limousine to head down to Marin City. Mac Dre decided to bring the whole Crest Side with him, 15 cars deep. But on the way to the show, one of the cars crashed, and then the limousine broke down on the bridge. So here they are, stuck on the Highway 37 bridge with a crashed car and a broken limousine. Usually you try to get the car towed, but they have a concert in less than an hour. So half of the guys say, man, let's deal with the cars and head back home. This concert is not meant to be. But Mac Dre and the Romper Room want to perform, so they're like, forget about the cars, let's leave them on the road and go to the concert. They eventually arrive in Marin City, and it's a one-way in and one-way out. There is nothing but housing projects, a liquor store, and a rec center.
Marin City is a town that consists basically of these projects. You know, it's one way in, one way out. At the time, it was one way in, one way out. You know, you had the projects, and you had the police station, and you had a liquor store. That's it. And
that was the time?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So they go to the rec center to perform and head back to the locker room to meet Tupac. But for some reason, Tupac is nowhere to be found. Red flag number one. Where is the guy that set up the concert? So Vallejo rapper Coolio heads to the stage and there is only one person there. The one girl in the crowd tells him that she doesn't think it's a show. So instantly, Coolio knew something was up and he heads back to the locker room to tell Mac Dre. But as soon as he gets to the door, boom, a group of Marin City guys are right there. They start yelling F the Romper Room and all of Coolio's nightmares came true. As soon as the guys in the locker room hear what's going on, they start running to the car. Bam! They start chasing Mac Dre and the Romper Room through Marin City, but luckily they got away in time and head back to Vallejo.
We smash it back, look what we passed back by. That fucking limousine and Eric Hamilton truck sitting on the side of the fucking road still. You like, should have stayed with these fucking cars, you know what I mean? Like, but it's all in the name of a good time because we're still here to talk about it.
After this incident, there was one big question. Did Tupac set up Mac Dre? And although we will never truly know the answer, some guys in Mac Dre's crew absolutely believe that it was Tupac's plan. But luckily, people would move on from the situation as both Mac Dre and Tupac's careers began to take off. But there would be a bump in the road for Mac Dre. March 26, 1992. Mac Dre is booked to perform at a show in Fresno. He's opening for Ice Cube, which is a sign that he's getting hot on the West Coast. But as he's getting hot, so are things in his neighborhood. At this time, Mac Dre and the entire Crest were being monitored regarding bank robberies that had taken place all over the Bay Area. And Mac Dre was tired of them always questioning him. So he dropped a Vallejo PD diss track where he name-dropped the detectives. The Vallejo detectives were not happy about this, to say the least, so they decided to do something very sneaky. One of Mac Dre's associates named Corey Dunn would get caught up for fingerprints in a stolen car, and this car was used in all kinds of bank robberies in Vallejo. So instead of charging him with it, the police would offer him a free way out. He needed to wear a wire during the trip down to Fresno with Mac Dre in the Romper Room, and he decided to do it. He knew that J Diggs was planning to hit a bank while Mac Dre does what he's there to do in Fresno. So they all head down to Fresno and they leave Mac Dre at the hotel because remember, he has nothing to do with this. So Corey, J Diggs, and Kilo Kurt decide to head down to the bank. But when they get there, J Diggs notices that there are news vans all around and he can tell that something is up. So they tell Corey, who's the driver, that they want to turn around. But for some odd reason, Corey does not want to. But he has no choice and they tell him to drive back to the hotel so they can pick up Mac Dre and head back to Vallejo. So So Corey drives back to Vallejo in his car, and J Diggs, Mac Dre, and Kilo Kurt are behind him in their car. So on the way back, Corey pulls off to the side of the road to ask J Diggs for something. But while they're stopped, Mac Dre spots one of the Vallejo detectives on the other side of the freeway. He tells J Diggs, "Yo, I just saw Fitz. Something ain't right." What are Vallejo detectives doing 3 hours away in Fresno? Well, that's when dozens of police cars swarm around them while Corey drives away freely. So Mac Dre, J Diggs, and Kilo Kurt are brought in, and they all start to wonder, when is Corey gonna come in? And that's when they put 2 and 2 together. Corey Dunn was wearing a wire and would walk away as a free man after everything. The price of his freedom would get J Diggs 10 years, 8 for Kilo Kurt, and 6 for Mac Dre. Right as he's growing his buzz on the West Coast, everything comes to a halt, all because of Mr. Ratatouille.
Corey Dunn, let's say his name, please.
Corey Dunn.
Yeah, rest in peace, Corey Dunn.
Oh, he's dead now?
Yeah, he's dead.
Okay. How long did he die?
He died in 2010.
But regardless, you might be wondering, why did Mac Dre go down when he wasn't even involved? Well, it's because he kept his mouth shut the entire trial and ended up with a conspiracy charge. But he, just like Corey Dunn, was offered an easy way out, but he stuck to the code. After this, the entire romper room would end up going down. So after all this craziness, the Tupac situation was so far in the past that they decided to forget about it. But one day, they would get a call from Tupac telling them that the show in Marin City was a simple misunderstanding. He then offered to do songs with Mac Dre when he gets out. Even though he said it was just a misunderstanding, it still does seem like Tupac was involved, but this next story may offer you a different perspective. August 22nd, 1992. The annual Marin City Festival, where thousands of people come to watch performances. And for 1992, the show is headlined by Frankie Beverly and Maze. By this time, Tupac was already between Oakland, LA, and New York, so there was a disconnect with his old city. So he decides to show up to the festival to show love to the community that helped start his rap career. He comes to the show with his rap crew from Baltimore called the Outlaws, and as soon as he pulls up in his brand new Jeep, everyone comes rushing to him for autographs. Mind you, he had just starred in the movie Juice, so he was a certified celebrity at this point. But as he's giving out autographs to all the fans, his old friends from Marin City walk up to him angry. One of the guys punches him in the face and an altercation starts. Tupac's Baltimore friend named Mouse, who was only 5'5", knocks out the guy who hit Tupac. And as soon as that happened, it started popping off. So Tupac sprints back to his car, which is parked all the way in the projects. He hops in the car and his Baltimore crew make it back to the car as well. So they drive off, but mind you, Marin City is one way in and one way out. And they drive the wrong way and have to turn around and go right back through the projects. And when they get back, the entire neighborhood is waiting for them in the streets. They would have things thrown at them, but thankfully they would make it through. But the worst news was yet to come. When they got back to the hotel, Tupac turned on the TV and saw all over the news that a 6-year-old kid named Kaid Walker had passed away. And that's when Tupac would be arrested for it. His friends would say that it was their first time watching Tupac cry since they were kids. He felt awful about the situation for multiple reasons. First of all, his old friends in Marin City turned on him, and it led to the sad loss of a child. But after a little while, Tupac would get out. He would then decide that LA would be home for him. He thrived there and made arguably the greatest rap albums of all time. At the same time all of this is going on, Mac Dre is still locked up. He wouldn't get out until after Tupac passed away, so sadly they were never able to collaborate as they had planned. Can you imagine a Tupac and Mac Dre album? But let's jump ahead a couple of years to the most interesting part of this whole story. 1998. Mac Dre finally gets out after 6 years and starts dropping music instantly. But his first couple of albums didn't do as well as he expected. The 6 years that he missed held his creativity back, but after a couple of years, his sound evolved into some legendary albums. In 2002, he dropped Thizzle Washington, which had hit songs Boss Tycoon and The Thizzle Dance. After this project, he had the whole West Coast on lock, from Seattle to San Diego all the way to Arizona. And after this, he followed up with Genie of the Lamp and Ronald Reagan. I don't know about you guys, but these are my favorite Mac Dre albums. And I'm not alone in that, because cities like Kansas City and Detroit were big fans as well. So in 2004, Mac Dre was on top of the world. His slang and sound were unlike any other rappers. Initially, Mac Dre's passing was included in the video, but now that all kinds of new information has come out, I decided to make it its own episode. That right there is one of the craziest stories in hip hop. But to end the video off on a positive note, check out Mac Dre and Tupac showing love to the Bay.
I've been a lot of places, and there's no places like the Bay because so many races interact with each other and they get along good. It's not a lot of racial tension out here.
Because that's where I got the game at, you know what I'm saying? Coming out of New York, I always learned about flavor and different shit like that. Not to diss New York, I learned a lot, but I never knew the game. I never learned the game. And when I went to Baltimore, I didn't learn the game. Nobody ever took the time to show me the game. When I got to Oakland, that's when I learned the game. That's when it was in me. Somebody just woke it. Somebody just woke it up inside me, you know what I'm saying? Like a religion. And I just saw it, and I saw it in Oakland, I saw it living in Oakland, I saw it thriving in Oakland. I just saw everybody being about the game. That's the first time I saw all niggas thinking about one thing, the game. And they all follow one rule, the game, the rules of the game. And that was never in no other city I lived in. So I give all my love to Oakland. If I'm gonna claim somewhere, I'm gonna claim Oakland. Even if I don't live there. I live in LA now, but I'm gonna still claim Oakland. That's where it gave me the game. So I'm a resident, you know what I'm saying?
I hope everyone enjoyed the video, and make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. Peace!